Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene update. Today's date, June 12, 2025. Time in Texas about 1 p.m. in the afternoon. Thanks for hitting the like button. That helps my channel to grow. Some of the things we'll cover today. President Trump, FEMA out. 82nd Airborne are ready to parachute into California. Mexico and the riots, and Iran activate sleeper cells, plus an update on the Middle East. What's going on there? Some of my sources are God in the Bible, Patriot, Subscriber, Axios, Martin Armstrong, Hal Turner, Real Raw News, Hurricane Track. Okay, Hurricane Track is putting forth, we currently have a large system over Texas, extending into Oklahoma, heavy rain down to the south coast of Texas, pulling in warm air from the Gulf of America, interacting with the cooler system and bringing about storms. Hurricane Track puts forth that conditions are good for possible tropical development in the Caribbean, tied to this system that's over Texas and Oklahoma. So we'll have to keep our eye on that. And now we have this. So we have recently heard about the riots in Los Angeles. An individual, I believe on Tuesday, handing out bionic shields, face shields, which are expensive items used by the military and governments. And it turns they were handed out Tuesday to the rioters, and it turns out this individual has been arrested by the FBI today, as announced by U.S. Attorney in Los Angeles, Bill Lee. And the name of the individual who's been arrested by the FBI, Alejandro Orellana, who is tied to the Brown Berets. This is a paramilitary Chicano organization that's been in Los Angeles since 1967. They are anti-police. It's believed they're tied to the cartels. Information is now coming out that many of the Los Angeles unions are also giving money to this group, the Brown Berets. So we see deep state infiltrating the local labor unions in California and supporting an anti-government group, the Brown Berets. So that's going on. And now we have this. With regard to the NYPD riots. Now we had information coming out from yesterday from New York Prepper about a strange series of messages coming out over the U.S. military radio channel. One of them was heavy contact in New York, and it's interpreted by the U.S. military. Heavy contact means a firefight. So that was coming out over the U.S. military radio channel yesterday. And we have this in New York. The NYPD, the rioters, went into the police parking lot of the precinct located at Burkhart in Brooklyn and set 9 police cars on fire with incendiary devices. So that's going on. So I agree with my Patriot subscribers These are not protests, they are riots. And we have this going on, a riot in Chicago involving foreign militaries. Taking over the streets in Chicago, that happened yesterday. And it's being put forth that the riots in Chicago are being supported by foreign militaries, insurgency, and that they are taking over streets in Chicago. And we have Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson standing down, not taking action, while the Chicago police have arrested 17 for vandalism and assault of police officers. And the rioters also were in a car and they hit a woman. She was injured. So we see multiple sources coming out about a foreign invasion into the U.S., which is what President Trump has characterized, the invasion of illegals led in by the Dem political party during the JB show, foreign adversaries. Now let's go over who is paying for these riots, and we can add now California unions. We know California is a blue state. So we have the deep state, and we have the Soros, MoveOn.org, getting money from the U.S. government. A lot of that was stopped with Doge and USAID being stopped, but they're still getting money from various ways from the U.S. government, surreptitiously. We have the Walmart family money involved. Now, the Walmart family is part of the deep state. We have Iran individuals inside the U.S., and it's coming out from covert intel that Iran has activated sleeper cells and that the Muslim Brotherhood has also activated sleeper cells. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum, controlled by the cartels, also has come out against the United States of America. So that's going on. So we see some sources for money to fund this coming Saturday. What's being put forth now is riots, possibly 1,500 to 1,800 across America, that will coincide with the military parade celebration of President Trump's birthday in Washington, D.C., Saturday, June 14. And oh, by the way, in the planning for the date for this parade to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army, plus President Trump's birthday, June 14, is also the end of the 60-day time limit President Trump set for negotiations with Iran. So Saturday marks an ending date for that negotiation period. And we see the Middle East apparently about to be set on fire. And multiple sources are now saying that factions within the Middle East also have sleeper cells inside the U.S., pre-positioned weapons, and that their sleeper cells are also being activated during the course of these scheduled riots. So that's going on. Keep your powder dry, baby, and it would probably be good to finish your preps. It's certainly feasible, believable that President Trump could sign the Insurrection Act soon. And we have this from Steve Quayle's aggregate site, The Federalist. In the LA riots, Los Angeles riots, it appears that Mexico is involved. We see many exhibiting and waving Mexican flags. And we have this Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum and her political party, Morena, tied to the cartels, have made a public statement that Mexico will aid the riots. And it's believed now Tom Homan, President Trump's border chief, has put forth that the reason we're seeing so much resistance and rioters in Los Angeles, it was not so much to come against ICE arresting illegals as it was ICE arresting individuals, illegals, and other people. ICE was arresting individuals involved in the cartel trafficking and drugs program. So what we're seeing is Mexico and the cartels juicing up the riots in Los Angeles. And we have this Mexico's foreign minister has made a public statement that Mexico will aid and abet the illegals in the U.S. who are engaged in riots. Yeah, so that's going on. So we see Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, the cartels, and other groups coming against, uniting, and coming against the U.S. government. Steve Quayle's aggregate site Zero Hedge. The deep state Walmart family is providing money to NGOs that fund the rioters. And the deep state is looking this weekend to do 1,500 to 1,800 additional riots across America. So, Steve Quayle's aggregate site, Martin Armstrong of Armstrong Economics. Martin Armstrong is a globally famous economist who also uses his predictive software, Socrates, who has been advising President Trump for months to get out of NATO. And we, the American people, also stand up and say to President Trump, don't stop with getting us just out of NATO. Let's go for getting us out of UN, the WEF, and all other globalist organizations. So Martin Armstrong brings this out. 22 Dem governors unite against President Trump and the government of the United States of America, and says that in California, the state of California government is also giving millions of dollars to the NGOs to fund the riots that are going on there. And we have this, LAPD Chief McConnell says that the LAPD, the police in Los Angeles, are coming against professional rioters. That's absolutely right. This is not grassroots American citizens. These are paid thugs. We have this from Real Raw News that the 82nd Airborne out of Fort Bragg have demonstrated yesterday to President Trump their expertise, and the head of the 82nd, General Work, has assured President Trump that the 82nd Airborne is ready to assist in California and want to set up a landing site for the parachutes in the Hollywood Hills. And President Trump says, we will not allow America or an American city to be conquered and invaded by a foreign enemy. And the 82nd, yes, is currently establishing landing zones in the Hollywood Hills. The 82nd will come into California in C-17. The 82nd are paratroopers to assist the U.S. government in putting down an insurgency, and an insurgency is an organized revolt against government. So we see that going on. From Axios, we have, and what's going on with these riots and deep state is also tied to what's going on in Iran. So we have this, that, yes, so the talks between the U.S. and Iran, the Saturday meeting has been canceled. However, another meeting has been scheduled for Sunday. President Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, will meet with Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araqi. Now, Iran is talking against the recent finding coming out today of the IAEA, that's the International Nuclear Power Group, that said that Iran was not in compliance with the IAEA guidelines for handling nuclear material. And we have this. So this came out last night, that Iran, inside Iran last night, was jamming GPS, engaging in electronic warfare along their border. And we know that the U.S. military families, American diplomats and embassies all across the Middle East are in the process of evacuating. So it's believed something's going to happen. It's also being put forth that that's something that's going to happen in the Middle East is also tied to what's going on in the U.S. U.S. intel. Iranian militias inside Iraq, that's called the Iraqi Resistance, which is a proxy for Iran, plan to attack U.S. military bases. And we have this, Hal Turner's intel. This came out last night. Iran activates sleeper cells inside the U.S. U.S. intel has intercepted encrypted messages from Iran to the U.S., which saw a significant spike in the number of encrypted messages from Iran to the U.S. yesterday over a 12-hour period. It's believed that Iran is activating sleeper cells inside the U.S. And we have this, that social media post put out yesterday by Iran is indicating a large-scale cyber hit will be made by Iran on Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. We know we have a lot of U.S. military in those areas too. President Trump had a 60-day agreement with Iran to reach some kind of agreement between the U.S. and Iran regarding Iran's making a nuclear bomb. That 60 days ends Saturday. when that large military parade in celebration of President Trump's birthday in Washington, D.C. will take place. And to put that in place, the parade, hundreds, if not thousands, of pieces of military equipment plus troops are going to D.C. So yeah, many analysts believe President Trump selected that activity and that date to coincide with the ending of the 60 days agreement to negotiate with Iran, and that purposely thousands of troops and military equipment will already be positioned in Washington, D.C., plus the U.S. military and military equipment will also be pre-positioned across the U.S., being put forth to deal with the riots. So that's going on. And now we have this. Yeah, so President Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, will meet Sunday to have another Iranian talk. We'll see how that goes, or whether this meeting will also be canceled. So that's going on. And now we have this. We have that Africa CENTCOM, and we know the Middle East CENTCOM are giving orders to prepare for some kind of conflict in the Middle East that will involve the U.S. Army, Navy, Marines, and it's possible that the U.S. military in the Middle East will be hit by Iran in a retaliatory strike. That would mean it's very likely that Israel would have hit Iran, and then Iran will strike out against the U.S. military. And it's being put forth, Iran doesn't agree with the IAEA, saying Iran is not in compliance with nuclear guidelines. And that, yes, the U.S. canceled their Saturday meeting. They have rescheduled for Sunday. We'll see if that meeting goes forth. And we have this, that the U.S. State Department in the Middle East is advising citizens to evac, and inside Israel, the U.S. State Department has said to its American citizens, no travel outside of Tel Aviv. U.S. intel indicates Israel will hit Iran. And we can, I believe, if Israel hits Iran, I believe we can see some kind of attack inside the U.S. by these Iranian and Muslim Brotherhood sleeper cells. So keep your powder dry, baby. From Salon, President Trump is going to do away with FEMA after the current hurricane season. And he's just going to wipe out totally FEMA, that currently has a budget of $30 billion and 20,000 employees. So in the fall, President Trump will do away with FEMA. The disaster money that FEMA had handled will now be handled directly by the executive branch, the president, who will directly give the U.S. federal disaster money. He will directly give it to the state governors. It will be the state governors who will be responsible for disaster response. From Beston Taylor, we do have in around China and Taiwan, the Philippines, Japan, We had yesterday 2 Chinese carriers and 20 warships positioning themselves between Taiwan and, it appears, Japan and the Philippines. So it's my thinking, and other analysts have expressed the same thought, that once the Middle East is on fire, the U.S. is on fire with riots, that China will make its move on Taiwan. And we have this from Israel, intel, from Best and Taylor. What's going on inside Israel right now is that there is a possibility of a coup against Benjamin Netanyahu. It appears that many Israeli citizens and members of the Israeli government do not want to engage in a warlike action against Iran, nor do they want Benjamin Netanyahu to lead the Israeli government. So that's going on. And it's believed by analysts this is the reason Benjamin Netanyahu is pushing a hit on Iran to save his political hide. And we have this intel coming out from Best and Taylor that the UN also has sleeper cells inside the US. So we can add the UN to the list of groups who are fomenting anarchy inside the U.S., that the UN has flooded the U.S. and infiltrated and put in sleeper cells, and the UN is also activating sleeper cells. Keep your powder dry, baby. Now we have this. That Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu, has in the last 24 hours canceled his vacation, and that today, June 12 at 6 p.m., that would be Israeli time, the Israel military will receive changes in their orders. We have the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad in the process of an evac that is not voluntary but mandatory. Get out of Baghdad. We have the U.S. State Department canceling its brief for today, June 12, and analysts put forth this, that the State Department only cancels its daily press briefing when it anticipates a huge event occurring for which they will not have time to get the details. So that sounds like something could happen today. And we have this. Iran's proxy, the Iraqi resistance, preps to attack U.S. military bases inside Iraq. And we have more intel. Iran is moving its military from a defensive posture to an offensive posture. And the U.S. is evacuating, we know, diplomats, embassies, U.S. military families, in preparation with the possibility that Iran would retaliate against U.S. military bases in the Middle East. So it's being said Iran would only retaliate if it had been hit. So it's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.